First Enoch was left out of most Bible canons, argued over for centuries, and preserved anyway, surviving most completely in Ethiopic, with fragments among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The part that often gets overlooked isn't the rebellious heavenly beings, it's the humans who were already here before they arrived. Genesis 5 hands the earliest patriarchs lifespans stretching past 900 years. Then, First Enoch gives its own explanation for how that world became corrupted. Heavenly beings, called the Watchers, descended, took human wives, and taught forbidden arts. But the deeper question isn't who the Watchers were, it's what came before them. That's the trail we're following, starting with the numbers attached to the people already living when the Watchers got here. The strange humans of Genesis 5. Look at the genealogy in Genesis 5. This is where the story gets hard to ignore. Adam lived 930 years, Seth 912, Enosh 905, Kenan 910, Mahalalel 895, Jared 962. These aren't scattered numbers appearing once in a legend. They form a repeated pattern across an entire lineage. Then the pattern breaks. Enoch lives 365 years, and instead of the text saying he died, it says God took him. Methuselah reaches 969. Lamech reaches 777. None of this proves humans actually lived for centuries, but the tradition preserves the numbers deliberately, generation after generation. Read that list again, not as trivia, but as a claim about what an entire people believed was once normal. The Sumerian king list makes it stranger. Genesis isn't the only ancient tradition describing an unimaginably long pre-flood age. The Sumerian king list is a completely different cultural record, and it isn't evidence Genesis copied Sumerian tradition, but the numbers are hard to set aside. Kingship, it says, descended from heaven. Alulim ruled 28,800 years, Al-Aljar 36,000, Enmen-Luana 43,200, Enmen-Galana 28,800, Dumuzid the shepherd 36,000. Across 8 antediluvian kings, the reigns total 241,200 years. Then the flood sweeps over, and the recorded reign lengths become dramatically shorter. That's the pattern: an extraordinary pre-flood age, a catastrophe, and a very different world after. Two different ancient traditions, separated by culture and language, yet both place extraordinary figures before a catastrophic flood. The resemblance is striking, but resemblance isn't proof of a shared event. This is where the story turns to the Watchers. Enter the Watchers. According to First Enoch, heavenly beings cross into the human world. Their leader is rendered Semjaza, Semyaza, or Shemihaza, depending on the transliteration. They take human women as partners, and from these unions come beings the text calls giants. The narrative doesn't frame it as a romance gone wrong. The descent reads as a crossing between realms the story treats as fundamentally separate. The earth becomes associated with violence and corruption. The giants become part of an escalating crisis. And here's where it gets strange. The Watchers don't just arrive. They bring something with them: knowledge. The forbidden curriculum. Genesis gives us the brief outline. First Enoch expands it into something much stranger. The Watchers are associated with teaching weapons and metalworking, cosmetics, enchantments, astrology, celestial signs, weather, and the movements of the sun and moon. Different Watchers are linked to different arts, with Azazel tied specifically to weapons and adornment. This isn't just angels coming down and having children. It's forbidden knowledge crossing a boundary the story treats as sacred. Weapons make sense in a story about corruption, but astronomy? Cosmetics? That's the question the text forces on you. The story doesn't present every item as inherently evil. It places the revelations inside a larger narrative of corruption and judgment. Suddenly, the Watchers look less like visitors and more like the trigger for something much bigger. Was knowledge itself the problem? Here's the twist worth sitting with. The story may not be condemning knowledge at all. Reading the stars, working metal, neither is inherently corrupt. What follows matters more. Violence, disorder, the giants. It's tempting to reach for modern language. Knowledge without the right framework. Information dropped into a system not built to hold it. But that's our metaphor, not the ancient texts. First Enoch doesn't describe human minds as hardware running software. That's a modern frame laid over an older story about boundaries and forbidden revelation. The giants, when it becomes catastrophic. The Watchers' offspring aren't ordinary children in the narrative. They become giants, and their hunger grows past any limit. The text describes them consuming humanity's produce, then turning on people directly, then spiraling into violence across the earth. What started as a descent from heaven is now a crisis with its own momentum. Aramaic Book of Giants fragments were recovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran, catalogued by the official archive as non-biblical compositions. The tradition is real. The manuscripts are real. History, theology, or myth, that stays uncertain. And if the giants were the consequence, what happened to the world before them? If ancient texts like this pull you in, subscribe. This channel goes straight to the manuscripts, not the retellings. The flood, punishment, purification, or reset. Genesis presents the flood as judgment on a world saturated with violence. In First Enoch, that judgment ties directly to the Watchers and the corruption spreading beneath them. The Book of Giants adds something stranger, dreams warning the giants that destruction is coming, along with fragmentary imagery involving a tablet and the loss of what's written on it. The surviving text is incomplete, so the exact sequence remains uncertain. That imagery is vivid enough that it spawned a popular modern phrase: the flood was a data wipe. But that's a modern gloss, not a line from Enoch. The ancient text describes judgment, not a literal deletion of information. Noah, the strange child. In 1 Enoch 106, Lamech sees something unusual the moment his son Noah is born. The child's body is extraordinary in color, his hair like white wool, his eyes bright enough that the room fills with light when he opens them. Lamech becomes frightened because Noah's appearance makes him question the child's nature and origin. Methuselah and Enoch are drawn into the question, and Noah's birth becomes a question about his extraordinary appearance and mysterious origin, not a family announcement. Some modern readings turn this into a story about an uncontaminated genome. But Enoch never uses the language of genetics or DNA. That reading sits on top of the text, not inside it. What did "perfect in his generations" mean? Genesis adds another phrase central to this. Noah is called tamim in his generations. The Hebrew word can carry the sense of blameless, whole, or complete, used elsewhere for things considered unblemished. But the passage doesn't say genetically pure. Many interpreters read the phrase morally. Noah blameless among his contemporaries, not biologically distinct from them. The genetic reading is a modern theory laid on top of the text, not something Genesis states. So what was a pre-Watcher human? strip away the genetic theories and ask what the material actually imagines before the catastrophe. The first clue is longevity, a humanity portrayed as living for extraordinary spans. The second is cosmic awareness, heavenly movements, celestial records, mysteries revealed from above. The ancient picture is already radically different from ordinary human life. Then there's Enoch himself, portrayed as a human granted extraordinary access to the heavenly realm, standing unusually close to the divine world. Add the possibility of a lost condition, humanity moving from something closer and more connected into something more restricted. That's a literary and theological reading, not evidence of different biological hardware. The memory theory. But what if what was lost wasn't strength at all? What if it was memory? Nothing in these texts says ancient humans possessed superior neurological memory. That's not what the evidence establishes. But the imagery invites a different question. What if the lost thing wasn't physical power, but access? A directness to knowledge rather than an inherited one. The old human imagined here isn't an enhanced brain. It's a relationship to divine reality, portrayed as immediate rather than mediated. From Enoch to Sumer, Zoroaster, and the Gnostics. The story widens from here. Sumerian tradition preserves its own flood narrative. Zoroastrian, Hermetic, and Gnostic traditions each tell their own version of an original condition, a disruption, a forgetting, and some possibility of restoration. That recurring structure is striking. It doesn't prove these cultures remembered the same historical event. Similarity is a real clue. It's not a verdict. What the evidence actually allows us to say. Here's where the story has to separate ancient evidence from modern theory. The Watchers are textual. Their descent, unions, teachings, the giants, the corruption, the coming judgment, all textual. The Dead Sea Scrolls preserve Aramaic fragments of Enochic literature, showing these traditions circulated in the Second Temple period, centuries before the medieval Ethiopian manuscripts that preserve the complete surviving form of First Enoch. Qumran also preserves separate Aramaic fragments of the Book of Giants tradition. Genetic engineering, biological programming, deliberately shortened lifespans, an altered human template, a literal data wipe. None of it is in those manuscripts. Those are modern interpretations layered on an ancient account. What humans were really like. Maybe that's the actual discovery. The ancient texts don't give us a laboratory description of a genetically superior pre-Watcher human. They give us something stranger. A humanity imagined as long-lived, unusually close to the divine, living in the last stretch before a catastrophe tied to beings who were never supposed to cross that boundary at all. So what was it? History? Theology? Symbolism? Or some combination none of the categories fully capture? The texts don't settle it. They leave the clues and the harder possibility underneath. The real story was never about who the Watchers were. It was about what these ancient writers imagined humanity had already lost before the Watchers showed up. You've probably felt some version of that weight yourself, the sense that a life carries more shape than randomness alone would produce. Maybe that's not evidence of anything supernatural. Or maybe it's the same question these writers were trying to name, thousands of years before anyone had better language for it. For more of these deep dives, subscribe and stay for what's next.